Tell me, where are your friends?
I don't know. Help me!
Mitch!
Okay, Papa. If you want me, you can have me. Oh my God!
Take my hand. Trust me. Hang on.
What?
CJ!
On the hot Florida coast, the Emerald Bay Beach is alive with energy. People stretch through morning yoga while surfers carve the waves without pause. Watching over it all stands Lieutenant Mitch Buchannon, the man every local knows as the guardian of this shore. As Mitch steps onto his lifeguard tower, his sharp eyes instantly catch trouble. A sudden gust lifts a kite surfer dangerously high, and in seconds the young man loses control. He crashes hard into the water, striking a hidden rock and going limp. Mitch wastes no time. He dives in, pulls the unconscious surfer to safety, and drags him to shore. Another life saved. Just another day for the legendary lifeguard. Later, Mitch heads out for his morning run, greeting familiar faces along the way.
Tomorrow, make my pecs a little bigger. And don't cover up my front bump.
You got it. Huge dick.
Big dick.
On the sand, Sergeant Ellerby, the police officer who keeps order, is already patrolling. The two men share a friendly rivalry, always competing over who truly runs the bay. During the jog, Mitch spots a small boy who has just pulled a plastic bag from the waves. Inside is a strange white powder, flakka, a drug spreading through the community. Mitch confiscates it, but the problem doesn't end there. Soon after, he clashes with Frankie, the bodyguard of Huntley Club, who insists that part of the public beach now belongs to private property.
I'm an animal lover, but I will put you down.
Frankie! Oh my God, I am so sorry.
The tension draws out Victoria Leeds, the new owner of the club. Elegant and confident, she approaches Mitch with polite charm.
Victoria Leeds, the new owner of the Huntley Club.
Of course, I know exactly who you are.
She regrets that her venue can't be open to everyone, but the lifeguard doesn't know she's lying. Behind her smile hides a plan to seize more territory. She secretly bribes a politician with an expensive watch, determined to expand her empire. Passed over in her family business simply because she was a woman, Victoria now fights to prove she deserves control more than her brother. Meanwhile, two tech workers set up a drone near the sand. One of them, Dave, grumbles about the job, while his friend Ronnie has a very different reason to be there. He can't take his eyes off lifeguard CJ, and his heart almost stops when she steps up to wish him luck. Today, Mitch is recruiting new trainees, and Ronnie has signed up for the third time, hoping to finally earn his place despite not having the build of a typical lifeguard. Nervous in front of CJ, he fumbles and she leaves him speechless. Soon, he joins the line of candidates, where everyone is told to take off their shirts. The crowd quickly notices Ronnie's unusual secret, his chest covered in thick hair.
Ooh, nice nipple froze, bro. Damn. Does anyone have a weed whacker?
Laughter erupts from a muscular man nearby who mocks him in front of the others. But Stephanie, Mitch's trusted second-in-command, immediately steps in. Strong and uncompromising, she kicks the bully out of the tryouts and reminds everyone of the rule that matters most. Lifeguards are a family, and family stands together. On the shore, the roar of a motorcycle cuts through the sound of the waves. A young athlete steps off the bike with confidence. This is Matt Brody, a two-time Olympic champion swimmer hungry for attention and already scanning the beach for company. His eyes settle on a girl named Summer. Matt makes his move, but she shuts him down without hesitation. When he keeps pressing, her sarcasm grows sharper.
Are you following me? Okay. I may resist for a while, but we both know eventually I'll give in, so why don't we just skip that? Why don't you put a baby in me?
And soon, Mitch appears, interrupting the scene. The swimmer turns to him and claims he's ready to start working as a lifeguard. Mitch is confused until Brody waves a set of papers in front of him. Without a second thought, the lieutenant tears them apart. A place on this team isn't given. It has to be earned. World records in the pool mean nothing here. The ocean is not a controlled racetrack, and skill in the water is only part of the job. But Brody insists Mitch doesn't understand. Powerful people are backing him, and his spot is already secured. Mitch marches straight to his superior, Captain Thorpe, for answers. Thorpe explains the truth. Brody's fame has gone to his head, and after a night of partying, he vomited during a swim meet.
Oh my God! Looks like he just vomited in the pool.
Which triggered an investigation. To repair his reputation, he's been assigned community service with them. The captain sees his popularity as a golden chance for funding and demands that Mitch keep his complaints quiet. Still, Mitch insists the athlete must pass the tryouts like everyone else. If he truly is the best swimmer in the world, the test should be no problem. Back on the sand, Ronnie's awkward story continues.
Why does she always look like she's running in slow-mo?
You see it too?
Summertime, yeah, we got it right. Summertime, subscribe to DMITRYS recap.
She always looks wet.
She's the reason I believe in God.
With his friend nearby, he spots CJ again and clumsily tries to get her attention. Instead, he chokes on his food and begins to suffocate. In an instant, the lifeguard rushes in, performing the Heimlich maneuver and saving him. The close contact overwhelms Ronnie, who panics and jumps onto a wooden lounge chair to hide his reaction. The stunt backfires as his body gets stuck between the planks. Mitch steps in to help, but by now a crowd has gathered, laughing and filming. Ronnie is mortified. When they finally lift him, still tangled with the chair, he stumbles, crashes to the ground, and breaks free. Furious and embarrassed, he crawls away, blaming his friend for not rescuing him sooner. Soon after, Mitch gathers everyone and officially announces the start of the tryouts. There are only 3 open spots on the team. Each candidate must swim through open water and push across a demanding obstacle course. Ronnie struggles, but refuses to quit, earning respect for his determination. Brody, on the other hand, avoids the challenge completely, standing back with no intention of getting his hands dirty. Mitch makes it clear that things can't go on like this. He explains that sharks seem slow until the moment they strike, and he sees the same problem in Brody. The swimmer refuses to back down, so the lieutenant challenges him directly. Crowds gather, and Brody is thrilled to perform in front of the women watching.
Let me touch down. Let me touch down for a sec.
He quickly races through one of the obstacle courses, but Mitch wasn't talking about speed. His test is all about strength. The tasks are brutal. Brody must lift giant truck tires, carry a barbell rigged with 2 refrigerators, and finish with pull-ups until his body gives out, exhausted and drenched in sweat. The Olympic champion collapses. Mitch proves far more resilient, showing that true lifeguards survive by conserving energy and pushing past pain. Suddenly, 2 children fall from the high gear, and their mother dives in after them. Mitch, Stephanie, and CJ race toward the scene on ATVs. Desperate to prove himself, Brody speeds past on his motorcycle, recklessly charging onto the pier before launching into the water. Instead of helping the kids, he grabs the mother, blocking her from searching for her children. Panicked, she strikes him and breaks free. Brody hadn't even seen the teenagers fall. Fortunately, Mitch arrives in time and rescues the youngsters himself. On the shore, the mother collapses, and Brody rushes to perform CPR. Again, he makes a dangerous mistake. CJ spots that her airway is blocked, quickly clears seaweed from her throat, and saves her life. Nearby, Mitch revives the son, bringing the family back together. The lesson is harsh, but unforgettable for the rookies. When the tryouts end, Summer and Ronnie earn their spots as trainees, bursting with joy. The 3rd position goes to Brody, who proved his determination but still has much to learn. Mitch acknowledges his courage but compares him to a loose cannon. Victoria Leeds steps forward, congratulating the newcomers and inviting everyone to a party at her club. That night, Brody has nowhere to sleep and ends up under a bridge, haunted by cruel comments online about his past failures. CJ finds him and offers a way out, leading him to what he assumes will be a night of fun. Instead, she brings him to Mitch's home. The lieutenant opens his door without hesitation and hands him a fold-out bed. Inside the house, an aquarium quietly glows, holding a small figure of Mitch dressed as Aquaman, a silent reminder of the legend he's become. So who's really more self-absorbed? The next morning, training begins. Brody quickly learns the ocean isn't a swimming pool. He runs into rotting seaweed, jellyfish, and spiny sea urchins. The last ones are the most dangerous. Their venom strong enough to affect the mind. It's a world far from the clean, chlorinated water he's used to. Summer's nearby, and Brody can't resist staring, which only lands him in another awkward moment.
Do you just look at my boobs?
I was not my intention. I didn't,
Testing. Oh, failed. Oh my God.
She notices his gaze, calls him out, and reminds him that they'll be working in swimsuits every single day. Out at sea, Victoria Leeds meets the politician she bribed. He failed to deliver what she expected, and her patience snaps. When he hints that he could expose her as the one behind the Flocka distribution, her solution is simple: silence him permanently. Soon after, Stephanie picks up a distress call. Mitch and Brody race across the waves on a jet ski, heading toward a burning yacht surrounded by flaming oil patches. Mitch dives underwater, cutting straight through the fire. Inside the vessel, he finds 2 women and throws them overboard. CJ rescues one, while Brody struggles to help the other. The swimmer ends up trapped beneath the flames, unable to break the surface. Stephanie and Summer drag him out just in time, while Mitch discovers another victim inside, the very same official Victoria had threatened. Brutally beaten, the man is barely alive. They fight to resuscitate him, but he doesn't make it. Back on shore, Mitch tears into Brody for another reckless mistake. Officer Ellerby arrives, warning the lifeguards to stay out of police business. But Mitch and his team notice the details the cops miss: the dead man's luxury watch and the traces of flakka carried by the rescued women. Mitch suggests working together, but Ellerby refuses. Later, CJ and Ronnie cross paths in the showers. Still unsure of the rules, the rookie washes up completely naked, unaware everyone else keeps swimsuits on. CJ doesn't flinch, but Ronnie burns with embarrassment, fumbling his way through the situation until his shame gets the better of him. At lunch, Mitch gathers the team. They failed to save the official, and he knows they must figure out what really happened. Brody argues it should be left to the police, but he still doesn't understand what this job truly means. Last year, the lifeguards handled thieves on the beach, sea urchin infestations, even smugglers hiding valuables inside surfboards. Each threat could have cost lives if they had simply waited for law enforcement. Mitch brushes off Brody's doubts. To uncover the source of the drug, they'll need to go straight into enemy territory. That night, the team heads to Victoria's club. Among the crowd, Ronnie's friend Dave secretly works as a hacker, carrying out tasks for Leeds without the lifeguards knowing. While the party rages inside the club, Victoria Leeds is busy with her own agenda. She tries to dig up leverage on Chen, a powerful businessman who owns property along the coast. He arrives to discuss a deal with her, but their talks stall. At the same time, Dave, the hacker, pushes for more money to keep quiet about her criminal network. Leeds brushes him off with cold indifference.
Keep up the good work.
Hey, do we have a deal? Or...
The lifeguards make their entrance soon after. Brody boasts that he'll track down the flakka dealers within minutes, claiming his nightlife experience gives him an edge. Mitch stops him, instructing him to simply observe. What Mitch doesn't notice is Victoria quietly speaking with her bodyguards about the official they murdered. She warns them that the loose ends they left behind could bring trouble with the law. Not long after, Victoria approaches Brody directly, sharing drinks and feeding his ego. She hints that he could be a much better leader for the lifeguard team than Mitch. Flattered and already tipsy, the young swimmer soaks in the attention. When Summer later asks what they were talking about, he brushes it off, preferring to flirt instead of staying focused. Summer knows how to handle his kind. She grew up with 3 brothers and can shut down cocky attitudes with ease. Brody, however, has a different past. He bounced between 3 foster families, and it was only through one of them, who owned a swimming pool, that he found his love for the water. Now, with his career shattered and sponsors gone, he's back at the bottom, grasping for validation. Meanwhile, Mitch puts his plan in motion. He asks Ronnie to distract Victoria with his so-called signature move. Nervous but loyal, the rookie agrees. He suddenly launches into a wild dance routine in the middle of the floor, drawing every eye in the club. CJ can't hide her admiration, and the distraction works perfectly. With the spotlight on Ronnie, Mitch and Stephanie slip into the back storage area. There, they find barrels marked with a suspicious logo. The club supposedly buys its seafood from a well-known supplier, but this shipment comes from a fake company clearly set up for smuggling flakka. Mitch prepares to open a container, but an approaching guard forces him to improvise. He leans in and kisses Stephanie to avoid suspicion. The ruse works, but Victoria's already starting to suspect the lifeguards. She steps away, her eyes sharp with doubt. Out front, Mitch discovers Brody drunk and useless, offering no support to the mission. Furious, the lieutenant scolds him again. Brody snaps back this time, sparking a heated clash. Mitch cuts him down with a sudden yell, startling the intoxicated swimmer so badly that he stumbles into the pool. Once again, his stomach betrays him, and the crowd bursts into laughter, mocking him with cruel nicknames. Even then, Brody refuses to back down. He shakes it off and keeps partying, while Mitch, disappointed and disillusioned, walks away. Victoria's patience with Dave runs out quickly. Her guards grab him, force him into a wetsuit, and stuff raw meat inside. Then they toss him into the ocean, where sharks take care of the evidence. At dawn, Brody wakes under the bridge, his pride shattered. He stares at his medals, reminders of who he used to be. Soon, he approaches Mitch, ready to apologize. The lieutenant listens but dismisses him, insisting that lifeguards must think of others, not themselves. In desperation, Brody throws away one of his gold medals, swearing he's ready to change. He pleads for one more chance, offering to help with the investigation.
Listen, Mitch, I know I messed up, okay? I should have listened. I want to be a part of this team.
The swimmer points out the luxury watch worn by the dead official, exactly the same kind that Victoria's bodyguards wear. Convinced, Mitch gives him another shot. The plan is bold. Mitch and Summer wrap Brody in bandages and escort him into the hospital, disguised as a patient. Together, they change into doctor's coats to sneak into the morgue. Mitch, unable to squeeze into a gown, pretends to be a corpse. They locate the official's body along with the autopsy report. The truth is clear. His lungs were clean, meaning he died before the fire. The real cause of death was a broken neck. Before they can process this, Summer spots Victoria's thugs entering. The trio hides inside empty storage coolers, but Brody lands on top of a dead elderly woman dripping with embalming fluid. Mitch calmly explains it's formaldehyde, used to dissolve fat in bodies. The swimmer nearly panics, fighting not to scream. The guards retrieve the official's corpse and swap the real autopsy for a fake one. Summer films the crime on her phone, but the situation unravels when Brody bursts out of hiding, gagging and trying to distract the men with nervous chatter. At that exact moment, Summer's phone rings. The thugs seize it and flee. Brody grabs a moped from a passerby, and the chase is on. With Summer riding alongside, they corner one of the men, only to discover he doesn't have the stolen phone. Meanwhile, Mitch forces the second suspect onto a pier, where both leap onto jet skis. The lieutenant dodges gunfire, leaps aboard Frankie's craft, and wrestles him for control. Their fight crashes onto the lawn of a nearby house, scattering terrified residents. The chase doesn't end there. The criminal bolts inside, but Mitch follows, catching him in the middle of a child's bedroom. Inside the house, Mitch demands the phone, but the thug smirks and snaps it in half. A fight erupts, crashing through furniture and even turning children's toys into weapons. Finally, Mitch jams a diaper bin onto the man's head and hurls him into the pool. Drenched and defeated, the criminal surrenders. The team drags their suspect to Sergeant Ellerby. Instead of praise, they're met with fury. The officer reminds them they had no authority to chase down suspects or start a brawl. Everything they did was illegal. The lifeguards simply answer that it's good they're not cops. Captain Thorpe arrives soon after, equally outraged. Mitch tries to explain what they uncovered, but with the phone destroyed, there's no proof. No one believes their story. Thorpe threatens to fire the entire squad if they keep interfering. Frankie, the captured thug, is released with apologies. Still, Mitch refuses to back down. He soon spots suspicious barrels aboard Victoria's yacht. Together with Brody, he sneaks into the Huntley Club disguised as a worker. Mitch dons a chef's uniform while Brody is left with a woman's outfit, forcing him to swallow his pride. They watch as Flocka is pulled from the barrels and sealed into packets, confirming everything. Mitch tries calling Ellerby, but the sergeant is busy investigating Dave's body, which washed ashore covered in shark wounds. To him, the lifeguards' conspiracy theories are nothing but noise. Thorpe is there as well, and his patience runs out. 2 deaths in just a few days threaten the beach's reputation, and he blames Mitch for missing his shift during the Huntley infiltration. He declares that Dave's death is on Mitch's shoulders. The lieutenant is fired on the spot, and Thorpe hands leadership to Brody. The swimmer protests, but he's silenced. If he wants any chance of clearing his record, he must obey orders. Mitch insists the only one fit to lead is Stephanie, but Thorpe ignores him and demands his uniform. Mitch hands over the keys to the tower, encourages Brody to focus on saving lives, and quietly walks away. Days pass, and the former commander takes a job in an electronics store, his reputation reduced to nothing. Brody, meanwhile, works alone, collecting evidence, but branded a traitor by the rest of the team. He tries to reach Mitch over the radio, but the lifeguard refuses to respond, cutting himself off and sinking into depression. In his darkest moment, the legendary captain who once passed him the torch returns, reminding Mitch of who he truly is. The old mentor cuts deep with his words, mocking Mitch for wearing ordinary shoes and reminding him how far he has fallen. But beneath the sting is encouragement. He reignites Mitch's confidence and urges him to protect the Bay at any cost.
Come on, man. You don't just protect the Bay. You are the Bay. Mitch, the Bay needs you.
Meanwhile, Brody begins to redeem himself. On the beach, he spots a thief stealing from tourists and takes him down, returning the stolen belongings. For the first time, his teammates grant him a measure of respect. Later, he approaches Ellerby, pretending to be humble and cooperative. In his hands is the thief's cooler, and without anyone noticing, the hidden compartment in its base allows him to steal Dave's autopsy report from the sergeant's desk. Brody brings the documents to Summer. With her background in biology, she quickly realizes the truth. Not all of Dave's wounds came from sharks. There are knife marks as well. Shocked, Ronnie recognizes his dead friend in the photos. Fighting nausea, he admits Dave had been working for Leeds, hoping to earn extra money. The pieces finally come together. The murders were orchestrated to frame Mitch and cover Victoria's smuggling operation. Ronnie uses his programming skills to access Dave's computer and break into Leeds' system. What they find is damning evidence of widespread corruption and her full plan to turn the entire beach into her private empire. The Flocka trade funds her bribery, and only one man stands in her way, Chen. If he dies, his properties will go to auction, and Victoria will control it all. Soon after, she hosts a lavish party on her yacht with Chen as the guest of honor. The lifeguards regroup, determined to stop her. At the pier, Stephanie, CJ, and Ronnie greet Victoria with fake smiles, keeping her distracted. At the same time, Brody and Summer sneak below deck. The swimmer dives beneath the hull and uncovers a hidden compartment stuffed with packets of Flocka. He urges Summer to contact Mitch and bring him to the pier. Meanwhile, Stephanie takes down a guard and finds Chen tied up inside the bridge. Another thug spots them, but Summer smashes him with a fire extinguisher, knocking him out cold. They move to evacuate Chen, but Frankie intercepts Brody and seizes him as a hostage. Victoria doesn't miss the betrayal. With Chen missing and her cover slipping, she prepares to flee before the authorities arrive. She calls in a helicopter for her escape, while her men drag Brody into a small boat, locking him inside a cage. Then she delivers one final blow. Captain Thorpe has been working with her all along. It was Victoria who placed Brody in Emerald Bay, making him the new leader of the lifeguards. Now, disappointed with his failure, she decides he will pay with his life. The cage is shoved into the water, dragging the swimmer down as Ronnie and CJ watch in horror. Brody sinks deeper, his lungs burning, convinced these are his last moments. Suddenly, Summer appears before him like a vision, pressing a kiss to his lips and giving him the breath he needs. Revived, he opens his eyes, only to see Mitch in front of him instead, grinning and flashing a middle finger. Brody curses, but only bubbles escape. When they break the surface, he grudgingly thanks his friend. Together, they chase the boat carrying Victoria's men. Frankie fires back at them, while a helicopter approaches the pier for extraction. Mitch orders Ronnie to launch the fireworks Victoria had planned for the party. The explosions will block the landing. Ronnie panics at the controls, not knowing what to press, but CJ steadies him with a kiss. Fueled with new confidence, he unleashes a spectacular show across the night sky, forcing the pilot to swerve. Meanwhile, Mitch and Brody reach the thugs and fight their way through. They overpower the guards, but Victoria herself shoots Mitch in the shoulder, sending him crashing into the water. With the fireworks dying out, the helicopter moves in for rescue. Ruthless to the end, Victoria executes her own henchman and turns the gun on Brody. The swimmer steps forward, fearless, calling her out for every life she's destroyed. A wounded Mitch emerges once again, but Victoria seizes Brody as a hostage, framing Mitch with motives to kill his rival. On shore, CJ points Ronnie toward the last red button on the control panel. Mitch notices the charge indicator and stalls for time, rambling about his mighty reign over the sea. When the moment comes, he redirects the firework tube at Victoria. Ronnie hits the launch and Brody lunges to stop her from shooting Mitch. A storm of explosions engulfs the crime boss, ending her once and for all. Afterward, Mitch admits his strange behavior came from stabbing himself with a sea urchin. Its venom gave him a burst of energy, but it could soon kill him without treatment. Weak but alive, Mitch collapses to his knees, but the team rushes him ashore and saves his life with a timely injection. Ellerby approaches, finally admitting he was wrong not to trust the lifeguard. The two bury the hatchet, recognizing they always shared the same goal, to protect Emerald Bay. Captain Thorpe storms in, screaming at Mitch to leave his beach. Before the argument can go further, Brody steps up and plants a punch right on the captain's nose. For the first time, Mitch calls him by his real name instead of a mocking nickname. This is their beach now, and Thorpe will face arrest alongside the surviving Frankie. The next day brings new beginnings. Ronnie still can't believe he's with CJ, while Brody and Summer share their own kiss. The rookies join the rest of the squad as Mitch announces they are now official members of Baywatch. Then he introduces their new captain, Casey Jean, once the leader of the Hawaiian division. Together, the team runs in formation across the sand, though Brody stumbles, ruining the perfect shot. The story closes with a nod to the past. The film is based on the hit television series from the 1990s, famous worldwide for its slow-motion beach runs and countless parodies. The characters keep their original names, and two icons return for cameos, David Hasselhoff as Mitch and Pamela Anderson as CJ. Even YouTuber Logan Paul makes a brief appearance. In a post-credit scene, the old and new Mitch sit together on the beach. Hasselhoff teases Johnson about starring in a sequel, leaving the audience with a playful wink. And as a final note, a bit of trivia. Real Olympic swimmers are tall and lean, built for speed in the water. The muscular physiques of Zac Efron and Dwayne Johnson may look heroic, but in reality, all that bulk would only slow them down.